Hey math friends. So what we're going to do today is take a quiz on percent, fractions, decimals, and then percent part whole, that basic percent stuff. So I just want to review that a little bit with you guys before we do that. So write 0.24 as a percent and a fraction. So we have this decimal and we need to make it a percent and we need to make it a fraction. Well, let's make it a percent first. So I know that 0.24 is 24 hundredths because that's the hundredths place for that 4. Well, we also can do two things. We can say 0.24 times 100 and we get 24%. Or we could take that 0.24 and move that decimal 2 times to the right and get 24%. Whichever way works for you. And then if we want to make that into a fraction, we could say, go ahead and take that percent, and percent is always out of 100. So 24% over 100%. Now I have a fraction, but I need to simplify it. So I think, okay, I can divide by 2. I could divide by 2. Could I also divide by a larger number? Could I divide by 3? 100 doesn't divide by 3 very easily. Could I divide by 4? Yes. 24 divided by 4 gives us 6. 100 divided by 4 gives us 25. I don't think I can simplify this much more, so my fraction here is 6/25. Now, on your quiz, if you write the percent as a fraction over 100, that's totally fine, but I would love for you to simplify it, okay? Let's do another one. Write 5/6 as a decimal and a percent. And it says round to 2 decimal places. So that tells me that I'm probably going to get a number that is a repeating decimal or something like that. So let's look at it. Let's do a decimal and then percent. So 5/6. Well, I know to go from a fraction to a decimal, I simply divide. So I'm going to divide numerator by the denominator. Numerator goes inside the house. Denominator goes outside. I know that I can't divide 6 into 5, so I'm going to go ahead and add my 0 and my decimal. Now I'm going to divide 6 into 50. 6 goes into 50 8 times. 6 times 8 gives us 48. Subtract and get 2 as a remainder. But I need to keep going. So add a placeholder 0, pull it down. 6 goes into 20 3 times. 6 times 3 is 18. Subtract, I get a remainder again. Now I need to do a third place because I want 2 decimal places when I round. So I get 20 again, it goes in 3 times, and I could keep going, but I have 0.833. So I want to round 2 decimal places, so I want to have these 2 numbers, but I need to look at this 3. So does that mean I'm going to round up to 8.4 or down to 8.3? So I'm going to keep it as 0.83 because that 3 is less than 5. So now let's make that a percent. 0.83 as a percent. Remember, we just moved the decimal 2 times like this, and I get 83%. Or I could use my calculator and multiply times 100 and get 83%. Either way, all right? The next question, we have the percent part whole stuff. Every single time you do this on your quiz, I want you to write that percent proportion. I know that some of you may be very familiar with this and it may seem like, Ms. Hathaway, you're really getting on my nerves making me do this, but I promise it will help you, okay? And I also want you to, if you write down the questions, circle each part because sometimes they're not in the same order as other times. So it's easier if we practice that, okay? So, what percent of 50 is 5? So, there we go. We don't know our percent, so I'm going to use a variable for that. And I'm going to put it over 100 still. And then our part, or our is, we have 5, and our of is 50. Because it says what percent, pause there, circle it, of 50, so 50 is our whole, is 5. Does everybody understand that? Good. So 100 times 5 gives us 500. 50 times x gives us 50x. Now I just need to divide 500 divided by 50, and I get 10. And that would be my answer for my percent. Now I can check this by plugging that back in for that x. 10 over 100 equals 5 over 50. And I could check this multiple ways. I could cross multiply, and I get 500 for both, so I know I'm right. I could just say, okay, I'm dividing by 2 or multiplying by 1/2, and I know I'm right there because the scale factor is the same. Or you could simplify your fractions. Remember that proportional relationship. So, moving on. Remember, first step, obviously read it. 0.90 is 80% of what number? Now let's write our proportion. So, percent over 100 equals part over whole is over of. All right? Now, you can plug in your stuff after we circle it. So, 0.90 is, all right, well, there's my is. 80%, there's my percent, of what number? We don't know the of. So, I'm going to plug everything in. 80% over 100. 0.90 is of what number x? Cross multiply and divide. 100 times 0.90 is 90. 80 times x is 80x. Now I'm going to divide Now I'm going to divide 90, which is the whole thing, because if I write this, it would be 80x equals 90. And you remember from last year, when you have a variable and a number beside each other, you need to work backwards and divide. So 90 divided by 80, and we get 1.125. And that would be my answer. If I wanted to check my work, I would say 80 over 100 equals 0.90 over 1.125. Okay? And one more. What number is 25% of 60? Remember, what's the first thing we're going to do after we read that problem? We're going to write down our proportion. So, percent over 100 equals part over whole, or is over of. Now let's circle it. What number is? Well, I don't know the is. 25% is my percent of 60. So 25 is my percent. I don't know my part. And of 60, that's my whole, so I'm going to put that there. 25 times 60 is 1,500. 100 times x. So I'm going to divide 1,500 divided by 100, and I get 15. I could check my work and plug everything in. 25 over 100 is equal to 15 over 60. If I cross multiply, I get 1,500 or 1,500 for both of them, so I know I am correct. All right? So when you take your quiz, please make sure you always write your proportion, that percent proportion first. Make sure that you solve by cross multiplying or scale factor, whichever method works for you, and plug your answer in so that you know whether you're right before I ever check your quiz. Okay? All right, good luck today, friends.